Welcome once again. And as Archie mentioned, that it was a long, long wait. It's not just because we have started the journey together last year, but you know the story back when we were trying to open up a kindergarten in 2019. The first program that we wanted to pursue was XSEED. And at that point of time, we never had a building. We never had any students. Hardly there were one or two staff in our team. But when we thought about pursuing education as something that we want to invest on in this country, the first thing that came to our mind was XSEED. But when we made an offer to XSEED, they rejected our offer. And at that point of time, we had uh, so much of vision expanding with XSEED, but I think it was too overwhelming for his team. But here we go now that in last year we started the journey together here in Uzbekistan. And just in 1 year, it is a pleasure to see transformation in the education of our children here at Paramount. Thank you so much. And
Thank you, and sorry, David, it took that long, but better late than never.
yes,
I think it was destined, so here we are.
yes, and so we will not wait for long to hear more from you. Just tell us something about your journey in how the philosophy of learning and what inspired you to the creation of Exceed.
It's a very long story, but I'll try and give the short version. So, my journey, David, began. I come from a middle class, low middle class background. My parents were very well educated, but no money in the house. So, like a lot of people, I did an MBA, and for about 10 years, I was in the corporate world. And I was lucky that in my 20s, I got an opportunity in Europe. So, I worked in Russia, I worked in France, and then I worked in the United States and got a lot of exposure in these places. My daughter was born in Moscow, and how she spoke Russian as a little child. And for those of you who have Russian roots, I think many good things in Moscow, and obviously, when your child is born, you have an association. But the way the Russian culture treated children, the Detsky Sad, was like a revelation to me. And so, my journey in education started with the birth of my daughter because I got interested in children for the first time. And then when my son was born, I got interested in what makes children different. And two children from the same parent so different that a classroom must be so different. All these thoughts started coming to me. And a couple of things are worth mentioning here. So, I was living in Paris in a very comfortable life, and I secretly applied to the Graduate School of Education at Harvard. I did not even know prior to that that Harvard has a school of education. Everybody knows Harvard Business School, but I found out and I applied. And once I got in, my journey in education formally started. And within this, there are many, many stories, David, but two worth saying that if this did not happen, I would not be sitting here with you. One was the class by Professor Eleanor Duckworth, and it was called T440, where she would teach us how to teach children using chocolate bars and clips, teaching permutation combination, watching the phases of the moon. So, this very practical style of education happening in such a sophisticated place was an eye opener for me. And the second worth mentioning is that once I got into the space of education, I tried many things which were terrible failures. setting up schools, teacher training. Then, in my desperation, I became a grade 4 science teacher for 1 year. And that showed me the way that actually there is no pathway in the classroom. So we have to invent a pathway.
Well, that's interesting because I know that you have just shared a story of yourself that in the corporate world that you were working, he was a top company in India offered him, as they were setting up a business in Russia, offered him a private jet to fly in to work for the company, just to lure him to work for that company. And if he had stayed in that company, probably you might be now the CEO of that company, I guess. But that gave birth to your third child, as you mentioned, and that is XSEED. And we were talking yesterday, and he was sharing about the first two child was not so difficult, but the third child, which is XSEED, has uh, changed her color of his hair and then falling off. Yeah. And but thank you so much for what you have started a movement, and it's not just only that you have given birth to a third child, but it has multiplied into millions of children. And another question here, these are questions from a lot of parents and our teachers as well, and they were curious to know about um, what changes have you noticed in students' confidence, curiosity, or creativity after adopting XSEED?
Many, many things. Let me pick two, which I think are important. I think children face two challenges as children. First is what to think, and second, whether I should say it or I should not say it. So let's talk about the first. Children have wonderful thoughts, amazing thoughts, and no shortage of thoughts. You only have to watch a 2 year old go and stick their finger in the electric point and go to the edge of the water or even the balcony. No fear. This is given by nature or God or whatever you want to call that force. This is a natural force in all children. But for some strange reason, big people like us slowly tell them that your thoughts are not the right thoughts. Papa is right, you're wrong. Mama is right, you're wrong. What's written in the book is right, you're wrong. The neighbor's child is doing this, you're not doing that. When I was a child, I never did it like that. So, the magical force of a 3 year old, which goes into a crescendo when she's 8 or 9, by the time they're 12 or 13, with the onset of adolescence, the change in the body is instead of I can, it becomes maybe I cannot. Which leads to the second thing, that expression of the child is compromised and she becomes a somewhat diminished form of herself. But we big people are crazy. Then you jump 10 years, she's 25 years old and goes to work, and then you're saying, have independent thoughts, have your own creativity, express yourself in English or whichever language. Suddenly we expect the reverse. So, the first change most people tell me when they go to XSEED classroom, I don't know if some of the parents, the children raise their hands fearlessly. Tak, itu какая-то первый сигнал. And then to be able to speak up because the teacher is speaking less and asking the children to speak first, even if they are wrong. And traditionally, creative classrooms have been associated with lack of rigor. But what XSEED does is starts the class this and then moves into very detailed worksheets, practice, and so the children get the confidence to write in their own words and do things on their own, doing your own homework. If XSEED is implemented correctly, children should be doing most of their homework independently, even if it's sometimes wrong, no problem. So these things, David, make me feel the sacrifices are worth it.
Yes, yes.
Uh, White hair, no hair. And your words are more important than mine or Archie's or the parents, that we're truly building the foundation for the future. That's what the work is about. And you're doing it.
Well, thank you, thank you. That was a very deep explanation, and I think we'll move on with all these different questions as well. One of the questions that came to us was AI and digital learning is on the rise. Uh, how do you see education evolving in the next, here it says 10 years, but I would say even in the next 3 to 5 to 10 years, and where does Exceed fit in that, into that future?
Our work has become 100 times more important in the last 3 years. I'll take one specific example. So there's a cliche for many, many decades that you should know the right question to ask. It has become a necessity with the coming of ChatGPT and the LLMs, the large language models. Because the AI has all the answers, but you need to put the question inside the box. The fancy word for it is prompt engineering. For those of you who've heard it, prompt engineering, what to prompt the machine to think. So, putting the question has become critical, survival. If you can't do that, you're not going to have a job. And how she thinks and how he thinks was always important, but now it has become critical, essential. The world, everybody is saying, is going to separate into two worlds: a smaller group which can do these things and use AI constructively and do well, make money, be fulfilled, and a larger majority which is heavily compromised, no jobs, maybe universal basic income, which is paid by the government, but no fulfillment, no confidence, what to do with life. So the waters are parting. This last point is very, the irony in my view, that the path to mastering use of AI is not necessarily using more technology as a child. It could actually mean a little bit less. Keep in mind, Steve Jobs never let his children use iPads and computers. Elon Musk, who has 12 children, keeps his children away from. So the gods of Silicon Valley have been keeping their children away from technology. Why? Puchimo, puchimo, puchimo. Because what's happening in the classroom of Paramount, with children doing activities with their hands and making connections between physical actions and their thinking in the concept, the fingers, the hand brain connection is so critical to developing of sense and logic and confidence, that if you compromise it, I'll say this and then I'll let you finish it. If watching a television or a video or a screen was the answer, the television was invented in 1950. By now, everybody should have been a PhD. See a 2-year-old child watching TV, it's like tak. The brain is not on, it's off.
Yep. we are really blessed to have XSEED with us, and I can vouch with our own kids. When they come back home, doing their homework by themselves, um, and uh, and that's an amazing change that we have noticed while they were not while they were not doing XSEED before. And I think that leads to another question. We have XSEED from K to 8, and we are using that in the kindergarten, and now we have up until 5th grade over here, and we have as we add one more grade every year. So the 8th grade will soon approach. And the question here is, can students transition smoothly to any of the international programs like IB or Cambridge or other international programs after completing their 8th grade?
100%. Why? The whole work of Exceed is about building the foundation of the child between the age of 3 to 13. Over the years, I've had a lot of pressure from outside people, from investors to say, go to 9, 10th, 11th, 12th, you can make more money, more revenue. But I have resisted that because I firmly believe that the foundation of the child is laid till the time she's 13. And we want to become the best elementary education program in the world. If I'm able to do that in this lifetime, that itself is a lot. So let's take IB as an example. I know IB well because my own son studied in the IB program at UWC in Hong Kong. Now, what separates IB, in my opinion, is that they have a really good exam at the high school level. More important than the program of IB is the final exam of IB. And that exam emphasizes critical thinking. In fact, they have a whole paper on critical thinking, which means that not only you have to recall facts, but you have to make your own sense from it and come to your own judgment about things. Now, you tell me yourself, is preparing for that for 6 months or 1 year when you're 17 years old the right thing? Or to prepare for it for 10 years from the time you were a 3-year-old child, a better preparation? So, Exceed is not perfect. There are many ways it can improve, and we have so many ideas to improve. But I have seen children do well in both progressive programs like IB and the more national board kind of traditional programs. IGCSE is somewhere in the middle. So we've seen them do, because Exceed does both the critical thinking part as well as the rigor and practice part.
Thank you for that. And yeah, talking about critical thinking, my younger daughter is very critical. She has a very strong opinion, uh, and she will stand up to me in persistence. But don't tell her. Okay? So talking about critical thinking, and you have developed Learnometer that measures and tests the kids. So how do you measure critical thinking, problem solving skills in students through this Learnometer?
Well, let me take a very simple example. You could ask the child the formula for area, like a class 4, class 5, for a grade 5 child, 9 or 10, that length multiplied by breadth is the area, or what is the formula for volume. Many of us were taught like that as kids, that length into breadth into height. You could be asking children these kind of questions. Now, I'll take this simple example and give you 3 levels of criticality on this. Yeah. So, first, I give the child the formula for area and for volume because it's available in Google 20 years ago, and now certainly it's available on ChatGPT. So, I tell them and say that if you had to paint this room, how much paint do you need to buy? You can decide which is the more useful question to ask a 9-year-old. But David is a tough dad. He's not happy with this level of criticality, so he moves it up one notch. So he says the cost of paint is so many dollars or so many soom per liter. How much money do you need to paint the room? So let's say the answer is 1 million soom. You go one level up, that you have only 500,000 soom. What will you do? So you want the child to push the thinking that, okay, maybe I'll only do the ceiling, or I'll do 2 walls, or 3 walls, or. And you can go one more level into values. Do you need to paint the room at all? What does the paint have? Is it good for the environment or bad for the environment? If there was no paint in the world, what would you use instead? Archie and David employ so many people. I've employed hundreds of people. Every year they want a raise. If I offer 5%, not good, 10%, 20%, as if it's a birthright, your salary will not go up. But if you had employees like this who are asking questions, who are thinking, coming up with creating answers, saving 500,000 soon, you would happily raise their salary.
Yeah, yeah, amazing, amazing. Um, and so I know that this method has been helpful, but at times for a lot of parents here, and we want to understand as parents how to support the kids at home shifting towards this XSEED methodology. So how should we implement? I think you have answered in brief on that one, but what would you suggest parents like us? How can we support our children at home as well?
Many things, but two things. I'm going to stand up for this. I get
Yes, yes,
very
please.
animated around.
Yes.
Fairway. First, correct my translate, but this is very important. To ask, Ashtoti Dumish. Now, we were brought up to believe, because our parents were like that if a child asks a question, you have to give the answer. So I'll give you a personal example. When my son was 5 years old, this was a long time ago, and had I not been in education, what would be my answer? And now, as an educator, what's my answer to the child? It's like frozen. It's like branded in my brain, right? This 5-year-old boy tells me one day, "Papa, like it's a big discovery that in the morning the shadow was so long and my shadow has become so small." If I was a traditional dad, I'm sure I would have given him a long lecture that sun rises in the east and that's why your shadow is long. Now it is overhead, it is short. We all like to be so important. But thank God I was in education. I asked him, Ashtoti Domshu, what do you think? Why is that the case? And you won't believe, I'm sure he's forgotten this, but his answer was, I think the sun has moved, or maybe the earth has moved. Something has moved. So, first is, if whenever they ask you questions, try to stop yourself and ask them for their thoughts. Second, encourage the children to do things on their own. It's okay if the math sum is wrong. It's okay if it's a very big bowl with a big loshka. She can drop a little bit on the table. It's okay, but it's important to do it themselves. In other countries, I don't know how much in a lot of parents get angry that why are there mistakes in the workbook? Why are there mistakes in the notebook? Why is it not perfect? And I say because previously they were copying from the board and now they're doing it on their own. And let me remind you, real life is not perfect. Learning comes through mistakes. So this sometimes is hard for parents.
Thank you for the wonderful insight on that, on how we as parents can also implement that in our own kids at home. And this comes from on behalf of the teachers. What are some of the most common teacher feedback or breakthroughs you have observed?
Very good questions, Achi. I can go on and on and on. So you'll have to stop me. It reminds me of a story in one school I went where this teacher started crying. And she was not a very young lady, maybe late 30s, early 40s. And I think it was the first or second week of teaching XSEED. So sometimes I go to schools, I talk to teachers, how was the experience? And she said, today a child told me, ma'am, what has happened to you? You're smiling so much, you look so happy. So, one of the biggest differences that teachers have told me that they've started enjoying the process of learning and teaching and appreciating children again. And the biggest beneficiary of that is not the teacher, but the child, to be surrounded by someone who cares for you and is happy. Because unhappiness is like an illness, it gets transmitted like a disease. But two technical things, where exceed teachers by far become much better listeners of children because they are trained to let children speak first. And second, rather than build memory, they are trained to build skill. So through the Learnometer score, through the worksheets, they are trained how to look at the independent skill level of the child as opposed to looking the memory capacity of the child. So many others, but I would pick these two.
Yeah, I think our teachers have benefited a lot over here, and they are also enjoying that process of teaching much more than it used to be, where we were initially doing the preschool had a curriculum, but then it was still a lot had to be put in by the teachers, and so their stress were more in how to implement that program versus how to nurture those kids that they are responsible for. But with Exceed now, their load burden of thinking about how to teach is kind of reduced by a lot, and now they can focus on the individual kids much more.
Great import, and I've said this many times. You said that last night over dinner as well. I think a lot of schools believe that children should be teachers should be writing lesson plans, and that's the way to keep them busy. I tell them a doctor's job is to focus on the patient. A doctor is not a pharmacy company making medicines. Doctor doesn't invent the MRI or the CAT scan. A doctor focuses on the patient. Exceed has freed up teachers to focus on the patient, which is the child.
Well, yes, thank you. Thank you for explaining that to us. And we have a final question. I know that a lot of parents have to now rush back to their workplace as well. And the final question here is that what's a myth about learning that you wish every parent and teacher would unlearn?
Many myths, but I think one big one is that the God of learning is the right answer. Whereas the greatest gift of learning is to make a mistake, to discover the right way of doing things, to try things on your own, to have the confidence that any stage in life you have any problem, you say, okay, give me 1 or 2 days, I can think it over. If you don't give that chance to make a mistake and correct, you are actually paralyzing the child for life. So, learning is not in books, it's not in videos, it's not in memory. Learning is doing things yourself, making a mistake, and figuring it out.
Well, thank you so much, Ashish, for your time, for your visit here at Paramount. Uh, no words is enough for to appreciate your visit here. He just came just for today, and yesterday evening he arrived. Today he's going to spend the whole day at Paramount, and tomorrow early morning he's going back. Yeah.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Achi. Thank you, all the parents, for having me here, for inviting me, and for trusting us with the XSEED program. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you. Good
thank you.
job.
Yes, yes.
Please.
Yeah. Okay, Q&A. Okay. Yes.
We have the time? Oh,
Okay.
okay, great. Should we stand for a bit? Or?
Yeah, if you want.
I don't know how your camera is positioned.
Yeah.
One question that's really worries me as a parent. You already answered how do we track progress of our kids as a parent in common. But could you answer please how whole program, how teachers track the progress, rate our kids, except tests. Tests is obviously, yeah. What tools does teachers use to rate our kids? To track their progress, if they are approaching or master something, and how do they work with it? Thank you.
Many signals, many signals. First, the participation of the child in the class. That sounds like a soft point, but that's hard data. Second, the worksheet of the child. And a typical worksheet has three levels: easy, medium, hard. Now, very important in this is the child doing the worksheet herself? Because if you tutor her, the teacher, or the parent, then you will not get the correct data. Then the Learnometer test. XSEED has an annual exam on skills called the Learnometer. And the internal assessment of the school. The school has its own tests and assessments. And to me personally, I think one of the most useful things is we have a rubric for every topic, every concept that the child studies. So I'll explain that, Dilrom, then you. So, is the child at an approaching level, meeting level, or exceeding level? Not in some general way, end of the year or end of the month, for every topic. So, teachers are trained in how to use this rubric. So, these together give you a signal on how the child is doing. Thank you for that question.
Thank you very much.
I will I will vouch for their son. He has a son who studies in the first grade. He joined, Arsenti joined in the upper kindergarten. And when they came from, moved from Russia over here, and Arsenti was just Russian immersed. And so when he joined our kindergarten, I would see him in the playground. He's by himself because English was kind of overwhelming for him. And over time, I kind of always, when I walk by, I just observe the children, and I used to see him, and slowly he would start talking to me, Mr. David, good morning, and bye bye. And now, when here at first grade now, this is his second year studying, he comes and explains to me, he brings out a plane, and then he explains to me about what this plane is about. Now, yesterday he had a bicycle, like a toy bicycle, and he was showing it. I was just wiping the windows here. I'm kind of dust freak a little bit. I kind of see a little bit of dirt very quickly, and so I was just wiping some dust out of the in the window, and he was like, "Hey, here's my bicycle, a new one," and he was explaining something.
All in English.
All in English, and so
That is data.
the,
Stunning.
Yeah.
What a story. But see, you're a teacher. That's why you can see it's a gift.
and that's one of many stories that I can share of a lot of kids in this school. Yes, Mr. Rustam.
I'm very grateful for this meeting, and sitting here as an educator myself, I had many parallels with what I do at university and how kids are not well motivated or not well educated because of the missing of the things that Mr. Ashish told, and this gives us really negativity indeed to teach those kids. But some kids are really great, some classes are great, and you don't even feel the time passing with them. My question is, how can we, as a parents, let's say, of first grade, to give some feedback on books? Like, is it on the website somehow? How can we reach out and, well, give some suggestions? Or does it have to go through the school, and then the school informs you about it? So, what is the mechanism of that?
Great point. Right now, the best way to give feedback is through the school. No worries. So right now through the school, and in the future we will have a platform which has a wiki which gives the answers to questions, and also a place where parents can give feedback. We don't have that right now. So right now it will be best through the school.
Okay, I think, do we, yes, I think, okay, yeah.
A question on behalf of all the parents. I'm also a parent at Paramount. So the question is, in the exit books, we see some examples from India. For example, currency, Indian rupee. And so for the sake of parents who are here, I want to ask Mr. Ashish, is exit an Indian curriculum, and how is it adaptable to global standards?
So XSEED was actually developed outside of India. The Indian connection is that I was born in India, and when I started my work, I went back to India from the US, and India is our largest market. But we also have a Filipino curriculum in the Philippines. As you know, we are in Southeast Asia. And at some point, we will have a version which is international and neutral in terms of currency, examples of fruits and vegetables, names of children, the way people look in the pictures. Uh, and we're pretty good at that because the Filipino example was where we made it from completely from scratch. And I don't know when you took the program if you saw the Filipino one as well. I think you preferred to take the one which is used in India. So I think in the next couple of years you can safely assume that there will be a international. I mean, it's international today, but like even more
Edition.
neutral accent
Yeah.
in terms of more diversity in the examples, pictures, and so we are on our way and excited to be
Yeah.
working with you. So hopefully it will spread more in the region, and that will give us motivation to do more of that.
Yeah, thank you so much, everybody, and especially Ashish. And I would also like to just kind of give a small, like a advertisement in a way that we are trying to promote XSEED to more schools here in Uzbekistan, and God willing, maybe in Central Asia as well. We don't want to restrain and keep it just to ourselves, because we know that this will be beneficial for a lot of children here in the country. And this is a new venture that we are working with XSEED and Ashish and his team to reach out to more schools, and if they want, they can implement XSEED program in their school as well. So that's another something that we are trying to do, and you can be supporting that in the near future, that it will be studied by more schools and children. And so,
Thank you, David.
thank you.
Thank you.